In this video, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I'll get into that after I talk about my stop here again for a little bit. I got a lot of comments on it about the function or the purpose of this stick, and the stick is merely there, or it's only there, to extend out onto the bed of the miter saw like that so you can cut shorter pieces. Now, originally I had a thought to add a scale to the stick so that I could set the stop here to 12 inches, and then I'd be able to subtract whatever it is from here. It would actually scale off. It would go like for another inch here, it would say 11 on the stick, another inch would say 10, and so on and so forth. But then I realized that most often when I'm cutting things to a uniform length, I'm either going by a mark that I've made on the stock itself. That's absolutely always the case for shorter stuff, or, you know, it's longer. So I'll have the thing set back here somewhere, and that'll be stuck all the way in there, and I'll just be going off the mark that's on there now. So a little bit of confusion about that. I thought it was obvious actually when I made the video, and that's why I didn't do a demonstration of it and how it works, but that's exactly how it works. Also, after that video, I added another pointer to the other side over here, and I mentioned that in the build article. And the stick will be reversed and work exactly the same way from the other side of the saw, like that. Onward to what I want to do in this video. The miter saw station is finished. I've got a router table that I'm going to make for that bay over there. This one's already occupied by my planer. I've already done a video on that. I don't consider these part of the miter saw station because this cabinet up here is not actually part of it either. I want to fill in these spaces on the ends over here, and I've got a rough idea on how I want to do that, but I've had people ask me before to show how I design things in SketchUp. So I think that the rest of this video is just going to be that. I finally got a screen capture thing for my computer, and I'll quickly design both of these. I think they're both going to work exactly the same way. And I've also got kind of a unique idea for up on top of this actually that I may design as well. Okay, here's my miter saw station already designed. I added a couple things to the drawing here. I added what represents the cabinet up above, and I also added the back wall to try to give me some idea of, you know, the limits to what I can do here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the side panel. I just draw a rectangle there and type in the actual measurements for that. Then when I have that to the correct size, I'm just going to extrude it up. That's the push-pull tool, and I'm going to make it the same height as the cabinet that's beside it. Next, I'm going to select it all by triple clicking it, and then I'm going to make it into a group. When I'm doing drawings like this, just rough, I don't bother changing stuff like this into components unless I have a number of them to do. I find that making them into groups is a lot faster. Now I'm going to draw the top panel in exactly the same way, stretch the rectangle across, and then extrude it over. I've got that little corner there that's overlapping on the face frame of the cabinet beside it, but I'm not going to worry about that in this. Okay, so that's the outside part done, and there's not a whole lot to it. I'm relying on the top of the miter saw station as the bottom, and I'm also using the end panel of the cabinet as the side panel for this. Now I'm going to temporarily hide that end panel so I can see what I'm doing on the inside. Now the face frame of the cabinet sticks out a little bit, so I need to add some shim pieces to build that up, and those will be around 3/16 of an inch thick. Then when I have one made, all I need to do is copy it up to the other location, since I need 2 drawer slides in here for this thing to work. And speaking of drawer slides, I need to make something that represents them. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't need to draw out an exact drawer slide for this kind of a model. I just need something that shows how much space that thing takes up. And mainly what that is that it's a 1/2 inch thick. Once again, I'll make that into a group and I'll copy that down to the other location. Now we can look at the overall size of this. It's actually not very big. And I want to use this space as efficiently as possible. So I want to use the depth of it and have something that slides out and then unfolds again to maximize the amount of storage that I can get there. So I'm just going to hide that panel again, and then I'm going to draw the back panel, the one that attaches to the drawer slides, and that's going to be 1/2 inch plywood, just like the other ones that I built. Now I've drawn it roughly here to the same size as the drawer slides. I'm going to resize it by pulling it down, and then I'll be able to push it back up so that it's 1/4 inch above the top of the miter saw station. And as you can see, you can actually reach through other objects to do this. So I just got that set 1/4 inch above the miter saw station top. And I'll do exactly the same thing with the top of that panel. Pull it up until it meets the underside of the top, and then I'll push it back down 1/4 inch. Now once again, I'll make that a group. Now I'm just going to mess around and reposition this. My drawer slides are 16 inches deep, and that's how far they'll pull out. But that doesn't mean that I'm limited to how deep this thing can be. It can go all the way back and pretty much touch the wall. So I'll slide it back and I'll try to get it in the right spot. And then I'll actually extend out the front to make it deeper. Looks like about 3.5 inches. So I'll have a total of 19.5 inches in depth. Also, I'm going to say right here is that when I'm doing this kind of thing, I rarely use this as the final plan for what I'm doing. I'll just use this as a guideline, actually to work out some details, to get the juices flowing type thing, so that when I actually go out to the shop, I have a better fix in my mind how this is going to work. Of course, that doesn't mean that I can't make mistakes with it, and I have a pretty big one coming up. So I'll make that panel into a group again, and then I'll make the bottom shelf of this pullout. Not entirely sure how deep this one should be. I'm thinking somewhere around 6 inches because I'd like to be able to put bigger stuff inside here since it can take more weight because it's better supported. With that one made, I don't have to make the top panel. All I need to do is copy that one up to the top. And then I can make the back panel for it, which is the same depth. It doesn't need a front panel because I'll be using the front door of the cabinet as the front panel. So this is pretty much done, except for maybe a shelf inside there, but I'll have to decide where to put that after. So now comes the tricky part. I'm going to make another one of these, except not as deep, and this is the part that'll actually fold out. So it's basically the same thing. I just make the parts, turn them into groups, copy them down, and then I can make the end panel for it the same way, and then put a side panel right on that. So it looks okay. It looks like it's going to fit in the opening, no problem. I'll put back the end panel just to make sure. And it looks like I can make the fold out part a little bit deeper. So I'll probably do that when I'm actually building it, but I won't bother here. Now I can add the front door, and that's 3/4 inch plywood. And it's actually split, and it's going to be hinged on the front there with a piano hinge. Once again, I'll just resize the panel after I draw it down to what it needs to be. This doesn't have to be perfect. Like I say, this is just a guideline for me. When I actually go out and do the building, that's when I'll get these final dimensions down. So that's that one made. And now I'll make the other one Very simple, pull it across, line it up at the end, and then turn it into a group. I skipped over the part where I made all these into a group so that they would move together. I'm going to pull this one out 16 inches, and then I can pull the other one out 16 inches as well. And this is where I made my mistake, actually. I didn't realize that this one can't be that full depth. It has to be 16 inches deep only, otherwise it won't clear the side panel. In this drawing, I hid the side panel on the thing, and if I had left it there when I swung it open like that, I would have saw that the thing had hit, and I wouldn't have made the mistake in the actual construction that I did. But you'll see that in the video that's coming up. So anyway, yeah, that's the way it works. Pretty neat, I think. And take a small space like that and get the absolute most out of what you can put in there. I know it's going to be a lot of work to do this, and it's going to use quite a bit of material also. But this kind of a thing, it forces you into organizing what you have better so that when you do, put what you're going to put in here, it'll always stay there and it'll always be accessible. Pull it out, fold it open, get at it, put it back when you're done with it, close it up. It doesn't get covered with dust. So there are many benefits to doing it this way, even if you've got a bigger shop.